Okay, welcome to Out of the Ordinary. I'm Jay, and this is
Eric Johnson.
And we're going to talk about kind of like life, how there's so many chapters. I've known you for a while now, and you've got, so many different chapters that were so each one is kind of like its own life. So I feel like you've lived 6 or 7 or 8 lives, and I could say the same for me or just about anybody that I know. And I don't know, what do you think about that? Having chapters in lives, and some of them are so significant, and you know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know that anybody that has these major differences, at different chapters in their life sets out to do it intentionally. Maybe some events happen. Like for me, if I was to map it out, I've actually started writing my life stories.
Oh wow, fun!
And what I'm doing is I'm writing specific stories and then putting them into chapters. And so the way my book would be written, it would say a summary of my life in Arizona as a kid,
Okay.
And then there'll be some stories in there. And then it would say my life as a teenager in Fallon, Nevada. And then it'll have stories that take place there. And, but I mean, a lot of times I think that what credits my life at having these very bizarre different pieces is that I was always motivated to get, I'm an type A personality. I want to get the most out of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And wherever I'm stuck at the time. And not that I necessarily desired to be in that situation. So an example would be after I served the church mission, I got married and moved to Alabama so I could go to school at Auburn University. And to be able to go to Auburn University, I needed to work in a factory. And I will tell you that there were some dark days there. I remember when the movie Peanut Butter Falcon came out with Shia LaBeouf, the very beginning of it, it just seemed like he had such a loser life that when I saw that, it really brought deep feelings of depression on me while I'm watching the movie, because it's like, oh my gosh, that's how I used to feel. I felt totally lost working in a factory. And I felt like it would take me 100 years to finally finish my undergrad to get out of this hole.
Well, I know one of the things that I struggle with, it's kind of it's similar but a little bit different, is that I'll have a really good chapter that's not struggling at all, that I love and love being a part of, and then it goes away. And that could be, the death of someone or a pet, or it could be a relationship ending, or whatever it is. And it's one thing if you're in charge of ending the chapter or moving on to the next page or whatever. It's quite a different thing when it hits you.
It happens to you.
Right.
Now, you didn't make it happen. It happens to you. Exactly. I will say this: the one thing when I compartmentalize each one of these little lives,
yes.
The main thing that changes is what was my long-term goals at the time. So when I was 0 through 12, living in Arizona, I don't know that I even considered my long-term. I just figured I'd grow up and be happy and be like my dad, type of a thing.
Yeah.
And then when I was a teenager, we moved to Nevada and everything changed, and it's like I don't necessarily like where I live anymore. I don't live that perfect lifestyle with wealth that I had in Arizona. Now I'm poor. And so I started making different goals of what I would do. I got into FFA, 4-H. I was going to be this super farmer. At times I thought about being an underwater welder, which is a very dangerous job, but the money looked lucrative.
The cool thing is, though, that I like about what you're saying, though, is it seems like even though a circumstance may have changed a favorable position, once you kind of got your arms around it and kind of got through the bummer stage, you're like, okay, I'm going to make the most of this life again.
So I'll tell you, probably the least inspiring moment in my life was when I was working in a factory. And I was, in my mind, I didn't think I could take but a few classes a semester.
Yeah.
So it's going to take me forever to graduate. And I remember my end goal while I was working in the factory was to buy 5 acres and put a double wide trailer on it, and then eventually retire there. And I thought, I look back now, and that just sounds awful.
Yeah, right.
I was going to live out in the woods in Alabama in a trailer, and a tornado would probably take me out by
my
now.
Dream.
Exactly. But the thing was, I had put in my mind that's probably as good as it's going to get. And then what happened was I eventually got to law school. And like how I got to law school was very interesting. So let me tell you this is a neat story. When I was a missionary, this leader in our church asked me a question. He goes, what do you want to do when you get older? And I said, I don't know, farmer or orthodontist or something like that. And he goes, no, you need to become a lawyer. And I remember when he said that, I was like, what? That is absolutely the last thing on earth I would ever want to be. I mean, in my mind, I thought that would just be a horrible life, be a lawyer. Right. And so I rinsed it from my mind. I got off my mission and started pursuing a degree in economics. Okay. First it was finance, but I switched to economics because I could get a really nice free ride scholarship at Auburn. So, and I graduated top of our program, and all the economics professors that were my friends took me out to eat. And this is during, I mean, I'm like a month from graduating with my undergrad, and I've already applied, been accepted into the graduate program at Auburn so I could get my PhD in economics. And they took me out to eat, and then when they got done, they said, the reason we really want to meet with you is we want to talk you out of ruining your life like we've ruined our lives.
Wow. Do
not become an economist. You'll be miserable because we're miserable. And they said, you need to become a lawyer. You make a great lawyer. And that was the second time I had somebody important in my life tell me that. And I literally went home and walked in the door, told my wife, I'm going to take the LSAT. I'm going to go to law school. And so I prepared, took the LSAT, applied to law schools, and a few months later, I was I had a year to kill because it was too late for acceptance in that next semester. So I got my master's in finance at Auburn. Okay. So I had accepted the program, and then I went to Alabama and got my law degree. And while I was getting my law degree, someone mentioned, "Hey, there's this thing called an LLM. NYU is a great school." So I applied, went there, and so it's kind of like I've kind of felt like it'd be like running the hurdles and tripping on all the hurdles all the way through it, but winning the race. And that's what school felt like to me. I was constantly making adjustments, getting tripped up and changing course, but it ended up being exactly where I needed to be. I will tell you this though, before I went to tax school, I was clerking at a big law firm in Tampa, Florida, and I remember walking out for lunch to go meet some other summer associates, and I almost lost it. I thought I'm way too far into something that's going to make me miserable, and I literally wanted to sit there and have a good cry in the middle of the street, but I couldn't do that. But I just remember how awful I felt at that time, and it took me, like when I finished law school and became a lawyer and started working in a law firm, I was miserable for the first 2 years. There would be times where I'd be sitting there and I'm like, I'm miserable. I got to get out of here. I'd walk down and order me some French toast to go. Get in my car, and I would drive out into the farm communities surrounding Phoenix just to get away from it. And I'd be sitting there thinking, why did I not become a farmer?
Yeah, isn't it weird how you go through like sort of ebbs and flows of life? It feels very roller coastery to me.
Oh, it does.
You know what I mean? Like just sometimes you're just boom, and then other times it's like, what am I doing? What's the point? Whatever, and you kind of go like up and down.
But I do believe that a person, if you think about life's course, it's kind of like either the tree or the roots. You start off at the trunk, and you could probably have been successful on many of the different branches.
Yes.
It's just weird what decisions we make in our lives that take us down this little path.
And little tiny ones. Yeah. Like I know for a fact, like when I was younger, kind of one of the first girls I ever fell for, one little thing I would have said or done differently, and I'd be married with a few kids in rural Arizona instead of doing all the other things I went on to do. And just these little like forks in the road, and everybody of course has those, but it's just crazy how like one little decision
or one little event,
one tiny little thing.
Well, like I look at if I had to write down like the 10 biggest events that ever happened in my life, it'd be a neat analysis to do to see how it affected me. One was that story about the professors telling me to go to law school. Another one was as a young lawyer I'm a tax lawyer, so I'm working on tax stuff, was a partner comes in with the full intent, I found out later on, to bury me. I was going to be the scapegoat for something he screwed up on an aircraft transaction. And I won't get any names because I don't want to get back to this person. But anyways, I saw it as a challenge to solve a tax problem. Yeah. Basically what was happening was the state was going to assess a property tax on this jet, of over $1 million, and I wanted to make it go away. It wasn't yet a sales and use tax problem, which is like on the purchase. That was coming down the road if this happened. And instead of just trying to address the issue, like, okay, like this is the way things are, my practice thought has always been, how do I beat the system?
Yeah.
How do I solve this problem in the most favorable way possible for my client? So I I basically looked at this and spent the day solving the problem, made the tax problem go away. I won't say what that was.
Yeah.
But it solved the problem, and it impressed this jet owner so much that he referred me to his neighbor who was buying a jet. This changed my life because now I'm the jet guy in the state. I do all the jet aircraft transactions, help people to avoid sales and use tax, make sure they can cost recover everything. That led to me representing rich people, which the other part of my practice is doing trusts. Now I set up these dynasty trusts for these clients, and
so just the fact that you were willing to take on that tough problem led to all this benefit.
Oh yeah,
and this whole new life and whole new lifestyle. And isn't that incredible?
Well, it is. And what's really interesting is I've always been interested in aviation.
Yeah.
Like when my first summer working as an attorney, I worked on this big case on a wrongful death where it was involved a plane with a pilot crashed the plane, killed everybody on board. And that was a really interesting case. I've always been fascinated with aircraft growing up. So for me, this was like, this is where I should have been.
Yeah.
You know, I should have ended up in this industry. But yeah, so in this state, a lawyer, if they say that he's the aircraft guy, or he's the trust guy, and so I'm at the top of my game. I represent some of the wealthiest people in the state with regards to trust and aviation, and it all links back to that one moment in time. Had that one moment in time had not happened, I don't even know if I'd be a lawyer anymore because I was miserable.
Right.
Working as a young associate in a law firm.
No, I like that. So let me ask you this. You mentioned long-term goals. Do you still do goal setting or anything like that? You do?
Sure. I mean, there's things I want to accomplish in the next 5, 10, 15 years, things I want to do. They may not be the same things that I had in mind years ago, and I'm still looking for opportunities of other things to do. So like, I've had many opportunities in the last 5 years that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to make something happen, you're trying to benefit yourself and everybody around you, and then one of the people screws it up.
Right.
I can tell you that's happened a number of times.
Sure.
Where like it's like, okay, there goes my, $40 million opportunity there. It's gone.
Right.
And so you work on something else.
Well, so let me ask you this: so we talked about a little bit about maybe you're presented with a fork in the road, and maybe you shoot into this little thing, and all of a sudden you're going this way. In this case, it was, hey, I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to think this thing out, and then look at what it led to.
I mean, at the time, I didn't know that's what.
No, you had no idea. That's what.
No.
Right. But now looking back retrospectively, do you have you don't have to name them, but do you have any regrets of the road not traveled? When there was a fork and maybe you went one way and you're like, dang it, if I would have done this other thing, maybe this would have been the outcome.
There's nothing that I decided to do that I could control that I missed out on, I think.
Okay.
And but there's been opportunities missed that I wish had worked. But it all depended on a third party making it happen.
Right. In other words, somebody else had to pull the lever.
Yeah, they had to make the thing happen, or they had to come through with their side of the deal.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, let me ask it a slightly different way. What do you think about regret in general? What do you think about regret?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's useful.
No?
No, I think it's fine to look at mistakes and then say, I got to move on from that. I need to make these rules in my life so I don't make that mistake again. But to just dwell on mistakes is not healthy. So I'll give you an example. In a sense, I could say I wasted 26 years of my life in a relationship with somebody who betrayed me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to sit around thinking, oh gosh, every day, should never even talk to that person the 26 years prior.
Right.
But what I do say is, had that episode of my life not happened, I would not have been timed up to have met the person I'm with now. And how fortunate I am to be with the person I am now.
Right. It would have been impossible.
Yeah, it would have been impossible.
Again, if not for those 26 years in that path, you would have never ended up in this spot to meet this.
That's correct.
I understand. I think that's a great way to look at it.
And so that way, it's kind of like these people have this. I always remember the tattoo, no regrets, because they spelled regrets.
Yeah, no regrets.
Regrets. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like regret's a tough one for me, and I think a lot of people in general, is because I think it's part of the human condition to think about what ifs.
Yeah.
I think we just do that. But I do know, like, oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say this is more of a deep philosophy, and it goes with my beliefs, and that is the reason I don't have regrets, is because I see this life as, I'm a Christian. I believe in life hereafter, and I see this as a test. Imagine you're taking an exam that there's tons of extra credit. There's always a way somewhere along the line to get back to full credit.
I see.
And so you can make these mistakes, and then you can make adjustments. And so to me, this is an exam. And
interesting way of looking at it.
And then that way, so why would you have regrets on an exam if you know you can still go another route and make up for it and get 100?
I think the way that I have seen people, I love the analogy. It's nice. Or you're saying there. I think what I've seen with regret typically is people that are on the upswing and doing pretty good don't typically think much about it.
Yeah, true.
It's usually when you're kind of in a depressed or a tougher state where the what if monster kind of comes in.
So I'll give an example of a regret that would probably be overwhelming. Last week I got a text from one of my classmates in law school, and it's about another classmate in law school I haven't even thought of since law school, who is now incarcerated for the rest of their life for doing something absolutely horrible.
Oh man.
Now that's regrets. If you're in prison and you're never going to be free again, and you know you're never going to be free again for doing something absolutely disgusting that hurt people, then that's a life full of regret. I don't know what they can do to get around that.
I don't even know if that's a life anymore.
Exactly.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So that would probably be a situation where you're so down and out. And I mean, I look at some people. So I'll give you an example. When I was going through my divorce, there was a lady in my church who was dying of cancer. And there's some debate there who's got the worst situation. And in her mind, she felt like I had the worst situation. And
she's dying of cancer.
She's dying of cancer.
She says your divorce is the worst of the two situations.
Yeah, and the reason is because she has an eternal aspect of things, and she has family. She has a devout spouse,
right,
loving children, whereas I have chaos. I have someone who betrayed me, and I'm in this person who feels like I'm not even a whole anymore. And she died. Right now, my life has since improved, but I had a difficult road to hoe. I had to find somebody who will be loyal and nice to me.
Right.
Right.
No.
And that's a hard thing to do in this world.
Yeah. I know it's like that just brought to my mind one of those things. It's kind of like a funny, not funny, but an interesting sort of what's worse situation. Like, let's say you're in a very what you think is a very strong and good fulfilling relationship, and then say 10 years later you seemingly think it's a great relationship, right? What's worse, the person perishing, your partner perishing in a car accident, or them choosing to leave you?
Yeah, well,
for you,
to me, it would be better that they perish in a car.
You know what I mean, right? Because you'd feel less abandoned. You'd be like they didn't have a choice.
What I went through is I felt like I was a piece of garbage pitched to the side of the road. And when it came to dating, if you take I always like to use analogies of kids' movies. Take the movie Cars. Yeah. I was Mater, the tow truck, a rusty, old, like no one's going to love me. I'm never going to find anybody.
Well, because that would certainly be an attitude you would come up
with.
Because
I got thrown away. Yeah, I got betrayed, and then the person blamed me for all their actions. It's like, you cheated on me because why? It's because I'm boring. I'm ugly. I'm fat. What is it? What's the reasons why?
No, it definitely forces introspection in a bad way. In a bad way.
Yeah, and so I was in a dark place for a while. It took me a while to get back to 100% speed again mentally.
And then it's funny because then isn't it weird how where you're at in terms of it just matters. Like as an example, that's how you were feeling then in the moment was like, I don't know what to think of my life. Do I have a life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, right, looking back retrospectively, you're like, oh my gosh. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Well,
Like,
I will tell you,
it's
at
crazy,
that time,
but like, why are humans so bad at,
yes,
you know, because the actual facts of the, to speak in large, the facts of the case didn't change.
no,
The only thing that changed was the perspective.
how you felt about things.
That's it.
You know, well, I will tell you that, you know, leading into the ending years of my prior marriage, I was so miserable that I had made a note that I wanted my headstone to have one word on it: disappointment.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad I felt about me.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, and so I mean, I had blinders on. I knew my marriage sucked.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to plow through
But
it.
what's funny is like now, looking back, that is definitely not
Not
the
the
word
same.
you would use at all.
But
You would have been like, maybe like, wake up.
Victim.
Or dilute, yeah.
Victim.
or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But here's what's interesting is right after the divorce took place, talking about being in a dark place, skydiving. I went skydiving. Why?
why not?
Why not? Because if it doesn't open, I'm fine.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. Like I have another question that I ask sometimes people. If like you had 1 year to live, what would you do? And kind of a response that I get is, well, day 365, time to jump the Grand Canyon on a motorcycle. It's kind of
Get the
same
media
idea.
there. Get the media there. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got anything else on this subject? Or are we good?
No, I mean I think that if you have to make a moral of the story, like the end of every
Sure.
cartoon, is you've got to make the best out of what you got, and if you give them lemon, you make lemonade.
I definitely like that. The other thing that I would add to that is, it's a lot of it is perspective, because you can feel one way about something and then a week later feel totally different. So I would say perspective and hang on for one more day, because you never know what the next day
you
might
never know.
bring, and all of a sudden
Exactly.
something that was making you absolutely miserable, you may look back and be like, wow, I can't believe that was making me so miserable.
True.
And aren't I glad I'm here now?
Well, one thing
know.
that I like to do is sit back and just say, what are 10 words that describe who I am? The best description. And you could write those words down, and some of those words don't match with other words on there. So I'll give you an example.
Okay. I've not heard this, by the way.
Well,
it's interesting.
Death rock,
Yes.
Mormon bishop. Do those two go together? Extreme opposites, right? And the reason
No, they do not.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is those both describe me. Yet, because I was in the first death rock band, I'm currently a Mormon bishop. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that you have no idea what's over here on the last. Like I'm on the back 9, but what's gone the 12th hole to the 18th hole? There could be some really crazy stuff over there, and that's why I'm saying people shouldn't get down on their life. Be upbeat. That's why I say look at all the weird variety that you've had in the past. There could be this weird variety in the future, and I hope people have the attitude that they're on a crazy roller coaster ride, and it's fun.
I was gonna say that's exactly what I think is. I think it's a roller coaster, and unfortunately, sometimes it goes in a weird loop, and you're upside down, and you feel really scared.
Yeah,
but then other
geez.
times, it's thrilling and fun, and you got your hands in the air. And
the only time it sucks is when they want you out of the car. At the end of the ride.
I don't know what that is, but we're gonna leave it there. That's
fantastic.
okay.